Shalom, shalom. Shabbat shalom. Welcome. So, you know what I wanted to do this morning? I have been thinking about this for a long time. I have been thinking about this for such a long time that I actually went and had a t-shirt made. Because early on in this election cycle this year, I realized early on this thing could end very badly. This thing could not go well. And in a lot of ways, we sort of are entering a perfect storm. And if you're a praying person, you better pray hard, because there are definitely, heavenly spiritual battles and forces. This is much bigger. This time, this election, as everyone says, and if you truly are awake and understand the implications, the import, the biblical proportions that could be this election for America could represent. It really is kind of a crossroad for our soul, where we're at, and it's going to determine a lot where we're going to go in the future. Because Yahweh he's fair, he's just. He will either give you enough rope to hang yourself, but boy, if you want rescuing and saving, he is there in the flash, of a heartbeat. So, but this is back to what I want to say. So I made this t-shirt. This is who I want to nominate for president, okay? Because it's obvious the partisanship that's we're going on today could threaten the Union. In all seriousness, it could threaten the Republic, and that's a very scary thought. I never thought in my lifetime such dramatic, sweeping possibilities could happen. I mean, we've seen how fast COVID can change our life. This election could change our lives just that quickly also. But either way, so what I'm trying to say, Binah for president. Did you know that there's a Hebrew word? When the Bible in Proverbs 4:7, it says to get wisdom. It says to get understanding. It says that is the principal thing. The whole book of the wisdom literature is about, if you will embrace wisdom and understanding, which is in Hebrew are the words Binah and Chokhmah, very specific Hebrew words, and they're packed with very specific meaning. But if we need to elevate ourselves, our consciousness, our understanding to what's going on in the bigger picture, and we need to pray for wisdom, because Lady Wisdom is the only thing that's going to get us through. Lady Wisdom, it says that she's feminine personification. Look it up. This is the concept that the only way to calm these storms that are raging in humanity, in the souls of America today, and people, is through accessing a higher, more powerful force that can calm these storms. That's why the whole, archetypal imagery of Yeshua calming the storms, calming the sea, saying that he had authority, he had control, he had authority. They could quiet if he said, be quiet. That's a very important archetypal concept. But this Binah is wisdom, is, isn't Republican Democrat, has no, Binah is the concept of wisdom. This is heavenly wisdom. This is godly wisdom. This is totally above. When Yahweh says, hey, my thoughts are not your thoughts. I think on a much higher level. I see bigger. I understand bigger. I can see all the way to the end of time. I can see your beginning. I can see your end. I mean, it's just the ways in which the text tells us that our Elohim is like, there's no one in comparison. And that if you get his wisdom, he can navigate you through anything. And this is why I teach so much. And personally, let me say this at this point, I'm going to switch things up. I have been studying long enough. I've been at this 10 years, studying the primary texts so that I know exactly what they say. I'm not taking anyone's word for it. I've delved deep into the Greek and the Hebrew. I have an understanding of how these languages work and are meant to communicate spiritual truths. And I have a deep and abiding relationship with Yahweh there. I feel like what I want to impart now, I feel pretty stand approved about. All right. So I will, but I want to go on Patreon. I'm going to start looking for people who really want to who are not combative, or I don't want to throw these pearls before swine, in the sense that it doesn't do any good. I'm not interested in contentious, in people who want to, my channel here, fight back all you want, whatever. But here I want to find people who really want to go on in a peaceable way, following in the footsteps of Yeshua, who was the ultimate wisdom teacher. All right. And it is a God consciousness Wisdom is a highly elevated way of viewing things. It's like getting to the top of the mountain. And you can only get there, it says it's a very steep and narrow little road, and you get up there, and it's through Torah, it's through Torah study and abiding within the boundaries and the parameters of Torah. Okay, and Torah, it means the full instruction of God, the full instruction of Elohim that he has left us with, which if the Judeo-Christian mindset would understand is a huge body of faithful remnant sages, prophets, Torah teachers through the ages that have left us this, people with great lives who have there's a very famous verse about it. It says that wisdom is justified of her children. So the way you can know that you have reached heavenly wisdom, or your mind is wired in this higher level of understanding, it will be justified by your children. So hey, I'll give you this is what really struck me this week. You have wisdom is justified for children. So which wisdom do you want to follow? The wisdom of this world that is currently out in the world, peacefully processing, that is well, I'm going to get into, has such an infestation of the spirit of Racha, which is what Yeshua specifically said. If there's one thing he nailed, he didn't nail jealousy or adultery, but he nailed the spirit of Racha. Watch out for this one, because this spirit, this demonic energy will destroy you. That's what it's created to do. So we want to steer clear of it. So I'm going to go into that. But the radical left, by anybody's objective, and I mean this, by anyone's objective standards, has been imbued truly right now at this time with a spirit of Aracha, all right? To the point where there's no more dialogue, there's no discussion, and if you disagree, we will hurt you. To the point where, honestly, this came out of the mouth of one of my own family members towards me, because, technically, I'm one of the deplorables, right? All right, and I'll predicate afterwards what brought this statement on, was like, no, fascists should die. We need to hunt out all fascists and kill them. And I was absolutely stunned. I was like, how can a normally rational person, technically, that I know this person to really be, when they're in the right mind, would advocate the murder of quote unquote? Who are these phantom fascists? So me, okay, like, you are not seeing clearly. So this spirit is there, and it's real, and it has been ramping itself up and positioning itself. And this is what we need to watch out for. So those who are truly the children of Yahweh, you need to walk in great wisdom and be very circumspect in these days ahead. But see, the radical left, this spirit, it's in them, and it has inflamed, informed, it motivates, and it is their driving energy. All right. But the thing is what it is based on. Okay. And this is what I heard this for years. I have been an end-timer my whole Christian life. For almost 40 years. I was saved in a very radical conversion when somebody started preaching to me, engaged me in a conversation on the end times, and like, well, don't you know that the Bible says all this stuff is going to happen, like, a one world government, and all these things, and I'm thinking, and the consolidation of under a world hegemony, and that was going to include, and he caught me. I've said this because I knew what he was saying to be true, because I had actually, had friends and people in high places who were telling me that this thing is controlled by puppet masters at the top, and it's going somewhere. It is going, there are absolute. So I couldn't believe that he's telling me the Bible's predicting this. Like, how did that happen? Well, the rest of it is history. But this spirit it's not a new spirit that's been in the world. It is the ultimate spirit that fights against Yahweh and against his anointed. Okay. And the anointed are those who have, perfect Hebrew word, the Christos, meaning the mindset, the elevated understanding of Binah, of what Yahweh Elohim expects of his righteous children. You know, if you love me, obey me. You know, if you want to call yourselves one of my disciples, well, you better, you know, have works and you know, not just talk the talk. You better be able to produce the fruit that comes from this. So wisdom is justified over children. So these people, there's just too much bad fruit. People just learn to examine. It's not that hard. If something is good and pleasant and it produces peace, it see this thing, when our inalienable rights of freedom, you know, wait a minute, life, liberty, and freedom are curtailed by forces, then that's a good indicator that there is something at work against the God of Israel, the high God and his anointed. Because I don't want to get there's a lot of threads to pull together. Let me just say that. But I was talking with the person about, now this has just happened to me in this week, and this is like, this is why I'm so concerned, because I'm stunned. A lot of my friends, you know, we're conservative. We have an understanding of who we'd like to see in the White House. And, you know, if you understand the culture war going on today, you know, there's a huge problem with censorship. Google and, you know, these platforms are way too big. They control 90% of all our directed searches. So where we're looking for information, they control it. So that in itself, by anybody's standard of antitrust laws. But anyways, that has made it very difficult for people who feel like they want to vote for Trump to get a message out of why. I constantly am asked, why would you vote for that guy? Why would you vote for Trump? Well, I mean, I have reasons. And if you stop for a second, we could have a cogent discussion about it, but you can't. So we were going to go on a TV show, local broadcast in our area, public access, and we were just going to read. Basically, somebody had put out, you know, like 125 things that Trump has done in this administration that the media won't tell you. I mean, basically, there's a lot of things, including signing and protecting those with pre-existing conditions in any new health care, either through Obamacare stands or through some new program. I mean, these people just lie. But anyways, so these people, we were ready. We had maybe, I thought, you know, 8 to 10 people we could go on. We could do a really nice little show and just put it out there. It's just our opinion, because it's free speech. We can do this. We feel that the media is not allowing. Facebook, you can't, the stuff, Facebook, so many platforms out there, you can't hardly say anything against the narrative. And the sad thing was, throughout every single person, and I'm not saying anything bad, I'm just saying this is about these people. This is a reality. This is what is so said. Backed out and said, no, they really weren't going to do it at this time because of the absolute real and not perceived real fear of retaliation. And it was told to us by many people in the know, look, don't do it, because these people will come after you and they will ruin you. I'm thinking, what? This is America. I should be able to go anywhere. And but then the reality of it though, these people will bully you, intimidate you. They will ruin you. They will do anything in their power to justify silencing you. And so you had some of the best, you know, community people in our area, lawyers, financial people, top of their game, and you know, tradesmen, and all sorts of women, housewives, like me, you know, whatever. And everyone got cold feet because wisdom basically kind of settled, no, maybe this is the time to stay in your house and hide yourself. That's a biblical expression of saying, you know, there's a time to stand down and there's a time to fight. For everything there is a season. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the America we have now, where the fear of intelligence, and this happened, you know, I mean, this is not like Tucker Carlson showing a picture, you know, of that couple in Minneapolis or something. These are my friends, people who I know are salt of the earth, outstanding citizens, taxpayers, law-abiding, wonderful families, great people who wouldn't want to hear their opinion, and yet every single one is intimidated. And I won't even say intimidated, feels that, you know what, this is not the time. We'll fight, but maybe not right now. And I'm thinking, oh, that's scary. So that's why this election, let me tell you what, if this spirit gets in the office, say goodbye. first of all, to the democracy that you thought you had, to the republic. So the first thing I want to say, the motivating, the money and the people behind this democratic makeover are not Americans. They are globalists. Their worldview is totally different. It is not within the contextual framework of the United States Constitution to embolden a people to remain free, pursue happiness and liberty that are inalienable. This is where the rub comes from, given to me by my creator and no government. Let me just, all right, just finish one thought at a time. I know, sorry. This is really real. I mean, we've heard about it for years, 30, 40 years. Even my husband would, this stealthily little, it is like the Nakash, I don't want to go there. Subtle takeover that they were taking away from him. There was a plot. Well, hello, there is. The pandemic is just the best tool, gift that they could have to truly try to implement where they're at and what their goals are. They do not want a free America. A free America, Americans who have a constitution to protect them and bear their arms. This is not part of the plan of the globalist agenda. And there is a real globalist agenda, and it's biblical. And that's what caught me in the first time when I got saved 40 years ago. So the people, this is why it's so irrational, people. If you happen to have the chance to hear me, just mathematically, it's impossible. These whistleblowing type, okay, you can call it conspiracy theory or whistleblowers, or, my dad used to say one man's conspiracy is another man's master plan. Okay. These master planners have been at this for a long time. Trump's been in office for 4 years. Mathematically, there is no way that all the problems that we're facing in our country in this current crisis could have happened in these last 4 years when it's been going on and documented to have been going on. I mean, John Kennedy got himself killed for talking about this. Okay? So your math does not add up at all, period. So you have to stop hating this one archetypal image that's been pounded into your head. Okay, and open yourself up to the larger forces that are at work to destroy us. Okay, now this is where it really came to me this week, because watching the AOC nominations going on of Amy Coney Barrett. What a great! She makes me proud. This is why it says that women will usher in the redemption in a certain sense, because she embodies everything that is good in a life well lived, a life that is lived by wisdom. Wisdom is justified of her children. The Democrats, they can't find anything. There's nothing there. She is a virtuous. We've seen so few virtuous people on our planet, especially, and it's amazing. And she has composure, and she's intelligent. She's everything. It is good, and yet and I understand the stakes. But this is the level of hypocrisy. Let me say these two things, if I can. Feinstein was caught on a hot mic, and what she said was so. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. Yes, I get. More of like, I get it. I see this thing, and so let me talk about that and what the Dems have embraced, because this really is, the Bible says you're either two things. You're either lawless or you're lawful. Okay. There's, the middle ground is in the sense of, okay, what do we do about it? Your sentence, your justice, how do you get sentenced, quote unquote, through how much severity or mercy is in all that. But basically it's, and Torah is very clear. If you love Yahweh, you obey Yahweh. What do we obey? We obey the 10 commandments. Now people, this is the foundation of our nation. This is not rocket science. Nothing has changed except this subtle, this subtle, by the serpent, changing of that foundation, the nipping away of that foundation. So now, all right, I don't want to get into a big lecture, morality lecture. All right, this is what Feinstein said, all right, to make my point. She said, in the middle of the hearings, and she goes, whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. Well, that's true. I don't have a problem with that statement. That's true. But she said, but the law is totally different. And about ACB, she said, the dogma lives loudly within her, like a little too loud. Like this is the, you know. But what that was so telling here is this kind of the law that here's Feinstein thinking, and that the law that they're talking about is totally different from the concept of the law that I'm talking about, or ACB is trying to, is expressing in her judicial outlook. All right. And this is the problem. People, let's get it straight. The law is the Torah. The law is the 10 Commandments. That is, we have a Judeo-Christian God. I'm sorry that the way the Constitution is set up, it absolutely is set up so the rights of every individual to practice their religion, as long as it stays, you know, as a practice and they don't try to genocide half the population, whatever, right, is protected. That's fine. That's the great justice. That's the sense of balance and justice. All right. But what they're trying to move us away from is the fact that the law we're talking is still the 10 Commandments. Okay. We are still a Torah keeping nation. One God under, one nation under God. That God is the Judeo-Christian God. That is the foundation. These people who made up these documents, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, who wrote all the early papers, you know, the Declaration of Independence, all these people these were, now maybe one was a deist, or these people were 100% on the Judeo-Christian page, that the Bible and the Torah is the best we got. And this personal living under this God who has promised, it's inalienable. He is he is the supreme judge and authority. Okay, they are this foundational truth has been under attack for so long, but at this point, it is really one vote away, which you could say in many ways in the Supreme Court, if that's it, or one presidential term away from totally, or one legislative control, you know, in the House, away from being totally eradicated from our history. And this is so sobering and scaring, and like, oh my gosh, how did we get here so fast? Well, you know, many people tried to, whatever. But these people, they're biblically lawless. This is what it says, choose you this day who you will serve. They are choosing who they're serving. There's no way around it, people. Okay, hey, let's just look at wisdom being justified of our children. If, you know, if and when these arrests happen and we see the level of the works, the dark works that these people engage in, from pedophilia to, I mean, the whole, to blood drinking, to the whole sex trafficking, and the whole secret power of lawlessness, what they blood suck out of everybody, to extortion, you know, practicing magic arts, all this stuff, to extort, to keep their place of control, of power, is mind-boggling. So by anybody's works, you know, wisdom is justified of her children. That's what Yeshua meant when he said, you shall know them by their fruit. Okay, the COVID policies of this pandemic have devastated people beyond, well, repair. There's some bad fruit in this, okay? And I'm just done with the fear porn. I don't come to the compassion porn, to both sides, where they're just trying to just jerk your emotions. Oh, I'm so done with that. That's why the Torah, the 10 Commandments, this is in the world of reason. So yes, the dogma lives big in ACB, because she is basing it on the rock, the foundation of the 10 Commandments that doesn't change. Yahweh doesn't change. Lying is lying. People in every generation, you know, I mean, what's wrong with that? When we threw the 10 Commandments out, we really started to turn the gun, you know, shoot ourselves. You know, we are, okay. And this is what we need to bring back. And there is a cry from the conservative. So I say, look at people, you're throwing out the baby with that. And there's been some very eloquent people, I think, who have tried to give some civic lessons, all right? Because we do need some major civic lessons, all right? We've got wisdom justify our children, we've gone too long without emphasizing the foundational precepts of our nation and our God and our foundation to these last 3 generations, to the point where they're totally Luciferian. Do as thou wilt. All right. It's all based on emotion. It's all based on situational ethics. It's all based on what the perceived, okay. It is not based on a standard that is outside of ours, that has been proven, whether you want to call it anecdotal, but has been proven, especially when you study the history of nations that get off of these standards in huge ways and do great damage to their population, starting with, Egypt, Babylon, Greece, Rome, the list goes on. And we could become a casualty too. So anything. Okay, so this is where, so not only does Feinstein express that it is the dogma, which they call of ACB, that scares the Dems, because if it's true, and if this dogma is allowed to have precedence again in our nation, yeah, we'll be able to push back the darkness, lock half these people out, shut them up, and just get on with a peaceable life. All right? The world is waiting, for the manifestation of the sons of God. But that's a different, but there's another really interesting, see, and this is why you have to have this level of wisdom of Binah, all right? Nobody's all right, nobody's all wrong. It is a constant balancing act of justice and mercy. That's why it's so awesome that this week we're really focusing on the judicial branch of the government, because they have to remain apolitical. This is so important because, and gets back to the judges, there has to be somebody who can render higher, nonpartisan, from all the way from wisdom, settlements on some of these issues, okay? But just to give 2 quick civics lessons, okay? And yes, let me just say this. I know the Dems are rushing and screaming hypocrisy and to certain, all peoples are imperfect, that the Republicans are rushing through this nomination. But you know what? Again, Trump wasn't in control of when Ginsburg died. I mean, these are acts of God, you can say, all right? But this is the thing. So they're crying hypocrisy on something that is clear in the Constitution and can be done. Putting all politics aside, yes, it is the job of the president to nominate, okay? Putting politics aside, that's exactly what the Constitution says. But how can there be such a rush job by these same people on a vaccine that is going to be so full by everybody's admission on nanoparticles, which I can't even go into, little bots that have insane potential to literally rewire you, okay? This is not fantasy. This is not, Jules Verne, this is true. This is where the technology is at, that the populace that will not go through animal studies. They've already suspended those. The vaccine people, you got to understand, they're protected by law against any kind of, if you could sue them, that if there were side effects they're totally immune from any blowback, so to speak. All right, that they can force a mandatory vaccine on us that has this potential level with the nanoparticles in it, with no animal trials, and rush it through us. And that's not a rush job. That's not something that we have a right in the narrative today. And this is why there's so much of saying, whoa, wait a minute. Why should you have the right to do that? That's against all of now let me get there. You people, you got to get out. I'm going to start carrying a little card, because it's going to come down to this. And it is in so many ways, of the First Amendment. Because it says Congress shall make, and you know what? It says Congress because back then they were setting up a government where Congress made the laws, not a bunch of bureaucrats. These people that have the narrative today are bureaucrats that are totally influencing the governmental decision making and policy making. All right, that is not supposed to be happening in our type of government, and not enough people are catching on to that. Number one, but they shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. All have a right to practice their religion. It doesn't say, oh, freedom from religion, you'll never have to come under the influence of it. You'll never have to see, a 10 commandments in your classroom. No, that's not what it's saying. It says people get to practice freely, openly, without fear of retaliation or intimidation or being ruined because I would want, all right? So you can't do that. You cannot prohibit the free exercise of it. What are the lockdowns? I'm telling you, everybody, that's the total infringement of freedom of exercising my right to worship my creator. Okay, and we won't even go into these in detail, and there are going to be so many lawsuits, and there are so many lawsuits where this is coming. These things have been infringed on. That there's no the abridging of freedom of speech. I mean, the fact that we did not exercise our right of free speech in the marketplace at this election because we literally felt bodily harm could come on us, bodily harm, financial ruin. I mean, that is real, and that is crazy. And so you got the freedom of the press. I mean, who is Google? This is what we don't. Even if these are multinational corporations, they have no business superseding, operating their platforms in my space of internet when I practice in the United States of America. Okay, because this is my country. I have these rights, and they have to. They do not have a right to screen, to shut down by I mean, the whole concept of this disinformation thing. This is what is so. All right, it is so anti-constitutional, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And this is such a setup going on here. But anyways, you have the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Emphasis on peaceable. You have a right to burn cities or ruin other people's personal property, stores and things that they have worked hard. I mean, the level of insanity is out there, is justifiably, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And even if that comes out, sue the pants off of a lot of these people today. Because the thing is, all of these rights have been given in the context, literally 100, to protect me, the citizen, from a government that overreaches, that overextends, that tries to infringe on these 5 God-given inalienable rights. All right? They do not have a right to supersede, to overarch their authority. This is where these rights have been given to us by God. This is the whole premise. We have these freedoms first. It's not the job of the government to govern and then grant me freedoms. No, I have these freedoms, and I send people, or we all send people to Washington, supposedly, or to our state center, or wherever, even look, to implement, good, honest, moral, fair, just systems of implementation, or whatever, that will make it good for all of us citizens, so that we can all do. It is not. These people that think that and this is why it is so scary today. So basically, I just really want to exhort people. I mean, I'm not coming out, I don't want to be a political, I don't really want to be a political animal. I'm not, it's just that at this level, it has gotten so personal and so crazy. And now we really do need to pray and be ever vigilant and understand. See, if my people will turn to humble themselves, Yahweh knows how to get through this. He does, and he has key people in place. I mean, the fact that ACB comes out of the woodwork now, and I know that it is interesting. I know that there's prophecies and there's different things in this thing. But for those that have been praying for this nation, who have been on their knees, there is a lot of hope. We never despair. We certainly don't walk by sight. We walk by faith. The remnant will be protected through the storm no matter what happens, and we will have a king who will defend us and protect us, and who will ultimately banish, from our kingdom, the forces that would impinge on my life to not have this freedom, to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which really means that all the potential, everything that Yahweh, every kind of potential that I have within me or you have within you to be the most awesome creation of Elohim and make your Father proud. This is what we need to preserve. This is what the nations need from us, because I'll tell you what, the globalists, we might be able to kick them out of America, but we aren't going to be able to yet ultimately until the kick them out of the world, so to speak. And they're going to do a lot of havoc and a lot of damage as they already have in the rest of it. And we need to be a place, this is my prophetic, I stand by this. We need to be a place out of the dragon's reach for the remnant that can get here, all right, as this thing comes down in total conflagration. So, on that note, let me also say last thing. I am subscribed to the channel. I think that I'm ready to really impart wisdom in the sense of biblically understanding it within the context of the two houses. How does Ephraim attain this level of God consciousness? Let me make my last point, because, you know, the thing about Feinstein in her comment, the difference between being lawful, according to Torah, and lawless is really in your, that's why it says the fear of Elohim is the beginning of knowledge. If you don't believe God exists, obviously, then you wouldn't believe in a standard, even though some people do because it's just really good. It's obvious. But this Toralistness is based on and is predicated on the fact that they have rejected a full-scale rejection of the Torah of Elohim, and they are a law unto themselves. Okay, I don't want people like that making policy for me. The godless do not have a right to make policy for me. That was why our nation was founded, and especially on putting righteous people of good character who fear God and are humble servants in these positions, instead of what we have today, you know, these power hungry, bloodthirsty, you know, really this swamp. So we got to get back. Our documents are brilliant. The foundational documents of this nation, they work, but we have to be vigilant. We have to kick out this spirit of Racha. All right, this is what Yeshua was talking about. This spirit of Racha, it has a name, and it is a murderous spirit. This is what Yeshua said, that if you hate your brother, not only do you walk in darkness, but you will do the works of darkness. And what do we know the works of darkness are? Well, murder is one of them, big one. So for out of the heart are the, you know, issues of life. So what's going on today is they are weaponizing. They are, when weaponized, they're allowing demonic energy to attach to them. This is really real. So when a situation can be created, I mean, this is really some of the metaphysicals of it, and it's very real. When words and ideologies and these become weaponized, and the only way to solve it is through a violent outcome. I mean, that's the thing with the difference between the, the French Revolution and ours, in the sense, all right? They were like, let's just destroy the whole thing and then we'll figure out what to build. No, let's figure out what we build and then let's defend it. That was sort of the POV of our founders, okay? But when a nation fractionalizes, and when that fractionalization that is motivated by a negative energy that has at its very end murder, civil war, total chaos, total disintegration of all the concepts of law and order, so that the society goes into total chaos, that if that left unchecked, that will result in the sword, which is the judgment. You reap what you sow. If that comes down on our nation, the sword to settle disputes, then we're all in a lot of trouble, okay? Which I don't want to see on my watch, but I will tell you that this is why Mashiach, I am the whole, who will teach the nations no longer to war. So on that note, let's love our brother, hey, love one another. We can get through this. It's learn, check your words, check your heart intentions, check the level of your emotional response to things. And certainly, let's humble ourselves and pray. Shalom, shalom. I will see you next week.